Hello and welcome to the Stacey West EFL Fantasy Football League show. The show that one of us enjoys recording more than you enjoy watching, but right now I don't enjoy it one little bit. Joining me today is Mr. Smugass to my right or left, I don't really care which one it is, who has not only won the week where we didn't do a show, and it is a coincidence every time you win, we don't do a show. That's the second week where you've won and we haven't done a show. But that put him on the 1% rule. And I could pick anybody, and he could only pick players that fewer than 1% had other players had picked. And he still won.
Yes, I did. This is the most satisfied I've been at any point since playing this wonderful game that we play. So yeah, great, firstly, apologies to anyone that enjoys watching this show that we didn't have a recording last week. yeah, absolutely right. In fairness, obviously, we're Lincoln City supporters. Appreciate not everyone that watches are Lincoln City supporters, and it's great that you don't. Thank you. But at the game last week, there was a couple of people came up to me and said, "Oh, where was the EFL fantasy show?" So it's nice that people are care about it and watch it. But yeah, it was very, very busy last week. There was nothing untoward going on. We just simply ran out of time because there was a match on Wednesday evening. There's also a match on Friday evening, so we literally only had Thursday evening that we could record. Both of us, we weren't able to find the time on a Thursday evening to record. We did still pick our teams legitimately. We set ourselves a 5 p.m. Thursday evening deadline to send to each other. So you got yours in about 10 seconds to spare. So we did follow the rules still. But yeah, just to kind of update everyone from the results 2 weeks ago. I won. That was nice. So that put me 3 ahead, which meant that this week, just gone as Gary has mentioned, he could pick anybody from the fixtures this week. And myself, I only had players who were selected by less than 1%.
All right, stop going on about it. La la la.
Now, what I would say is it made it really interesting for me. I as much as last time I had the 1% rule, you then won 5 in a row. So I was a bit concerned that might happen this time. I really enjoyed picking the team because you kind of look into players that you don't normally look into. You kind of learn a little bit more about everything. But it was even more limited than normal because there was a game week for the Championship in which every team was playing twice, and League One and League Two teams were only playing once. So what that also meant is that, in fairness, your selection kind of pool was smaller, but mine was smaller as well because I could only pick players 1% from the Championship. You could pick anyone from the Championship. So it made for interesting reading, didn't it?
Yeah, great. So the week before, the reason I lost the week before, and I think that we're both in agreement with this, I had to choose between Latte Lat at Middlesbrough or Conway, and I went with Latte Lat. Conway scored twice, and Lat came on in the last minute, which I think was one of the reasons why I had a really bad week. And you, to be fair, had a good week. Fair play. This week,
to be honest with you, 2 weeks ago, we both had quite poor weeks. I only got 51 points, which is not brilliant. It's not bad, but it's not brilliant. No, one player that scored 10 2 weeks ago, and no one else got anywhere near that. So yeah, neither of us had a particularly good week. So it was disappointing for us both. But we did set ourselves some rules, of course, didn't we, in that week? But I can't even remember what they were, to be honest.
No, I can't either. I don't want to. It's all turning into a little bit of a nightmare, to be honest, in it at 10-6, getting 4 behind and losing on this. So let's go on to this week. People want to see the team that I picked. And do you know what? In my defense this week, I did slip up. Granted, I took a punt on one player coming back from injury who's a high scorer. And I thought if he gets 5 points a game, it's fine. I picked Dennis Sirkin. And it didn't work. And outside of that, I mean, Borja Sainz has scored every week since the beginning of the season. He has 2 games, nothing. Look at that, 4 points. Outside of that, this is a decent week. Cooper with 10, you can take that. I've got the right captain, Esteve with 10, Brownhill on 14. I've got 24 spread across the 2 teams at the bottom, which is almost as many as I got across the entire picks in my first 2 weeks. Okay, Denore with a 7, but if everybody gets a 7, by the way, from the 7 players, that's kind of 49, 59, 60. Do you know what I mean? 7's acceptable, I suppose, but it really is Sirkin and Sainz that have let me down, isn't it, this week?
It is a little, yeah. It's kind of like, because you knew I was on the 1% rule, it feels like you went for
I just went for
the
the bank.
the opposite, really. What would normally be seen as the bankers, the ones that
Yeah.
are selected by a large percentage of the player base, but normally they're selected by a large percentage of the player base for good reason, aren't they? So in fairness, it was a pretty good week. I think you're going to be very, very lucky for every single player that you select, anyone playing this game, for every single player that you select to have a good week. There's always going to be one or two that don't score as highly, but overall, that's a decent haul. 95 points from a 2-game week is pretty good going. So I don't think there's a huge amount to be disappointed about.
Well,
it was just
they're actually. Do you know what's really disappointing? Yeah, shush, it's about me at the minute. Do you know what's really disappointing is it was a toss-up between Sirkin and Hegem, and I didn't pick Hegem because I'd gone for Sheffield United and Cooper, and I thought I don't want to back two horses in the same race because obviously I think West Brom plays Sheffield United at the weekend. Had I picked Hegem, and here we go again, and I'm not going to call it a moral victory, but had I picked him, I would have beaten you because he got an assist and he got a clean sheet. Last night he was on fire, he was on form. That would, I'm sure, I don't know what the rules are, but it would have given him at least 12 points for the week. Somebody can correct me and tell me he got many more than that. I haven't actually looked. All I'm going to do is just say I would have won if I'd followed my instinct. So when it comes to this week, where I've had a toss-up between two players and I've picked one, I've then swapped it around for the other one because I always seem to pick wrongly. So look,
it's 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, that's something, because you mentioned Conway the week before. You said you were going to pick between Latalath and Conway. You even said on the show the reason why you were thinking of picking Conway, but then picked Latalath. And if you had picked Conway, you would have won the week. That's 2 weeks in a row. Genuinely, where if you had gone with your gut, you would have won. I know it's coulda, woulda, shoulda, isn't it? But I think that might be an interesting way of looking at this coming week if you've literally almost gone against your better judgment this week because you don't trust yourself.
Well, the other one, of course, was Adji, wasn't it? When I picked him over Hegem, and I was toying with Hegem. It's happened It's happened every week. If I'd picked the teams that I said I was going to pick, but that's what it is. So let's have a look at the winning team. Respect where it's due. You were picking on the 1%, and you actually had, I think, poorer performers. You had 3. I only had 2 that really performed poorly. You had 3 that performed poorly, and you still came out of it with 105.
Yeah, I was actually messaging Josh briefly earlier, a friend of the podcast, friend of the show, sorry.
For tips, were you getting tips?
No. He actually messaged me and just says, "You did well this week, well done." And I said, "Thank you." And I was following the 1% rule, so I'm really pleased. It was probably a little bit of luck and a fluke, but I'm going to pretend it was all skill. So here is me pretending it was all skill in picking Connor Roberts as my captain, who on I think it was the Friday night match, scored. So that helped. So yeah, 32 points for him with the captaincy is a really, really good start. I was really quite pleased with my picking of Mr. Hyam and Mr. Shay Charles of Sheffield Wednesday. They were kind of out there picks that I hadn't even considered at any other point this season. And they're the ones that scored really highly. Cernak up top didn't do too well. Anis Mehmeti didn't do too well. Lucas Jensen didn't do brilliantly. So yeah, you're right. There was 3 quite low scoring players there, but decent haul from the teams at the bottom. And once again, defensively, that back 3 scoring quite a high average there of well in the teens. So that's what kind of won me the week. I think there was an element of good fortune there with a right back scoring a goal from outside the area. And that helps, doesn't it? That's not a sort of thing that you bank on. But it certainly helped. So yeah, I think I got away with one, but I'm obviously quite pleased with myself. And it's very, very satisfying that I did win a week with the 1% rule imposed. That of course means that I have it again this week, and you don't. But it was good fun.
You know what really stung as well, because I was sitting here at home on the Friday night. I can't remember exactly what I was doing. We'd had our curry or whatever, and it came up. I was following something, and I saw Josh Brownell because he got the assist, I think, for the Roberts goal. And I was looking at it, and he had got an interception at the time. And I'm like, he's on fire here. I am going to smash the arse out of this weekend. And I messaged you with Josh Brownell's got an assist. I'm on fire. And you just messaged back with, yeah, but Roberts got the goal. And it's just like, oh my God.
Then in a separate message, and I captained him, I think is how I worded that.
And if there was ever a collection of words on a WhatsApp that actually, and because this is for viewers, I could do it, that was actually this smug face. That's what you were doing to me. On your words, it was just like, oh yeah, you've got an assist, have you? Check this out. So I didn't
Hold my
like
beer.
that. Yeah, hold my beer. Exactly. Which is something I wasn't able to do on Saturday. So anyway, so there we go. They were the picks. Could we have picked anybody better this week, Chris? You are the man with the stats, while I do some other bits in the background.
Yes, we could. We could have picked better players. Both of us could. There wasn't a single player in either of our teams that actually featured in the highest scoring this week. There were some really interesting ones. One, to be honest, which has influenced my decision this week as well. The goalkeeper, first and foremost, was Ainsley Pearce of Blackburn Rovers. Now, there wasn't actually a goalkeeper that scored more than 9 points in a single match this game week, but he did get a total of. I didn't write that bit down, but he was the highest. He was the highest total scoring goalkeeper. I haven't had a lot of time to plan for this one this week. But he's kept 2 clean sheets in the back-to-back away wins, 1-0 away win at Sheffield Wednesday and Hull. So Ainsley Pearce of a very, very consistent Blackburn Rovers at the moment was the highest scoring goalkeeper. Jimmy Dunn was the highest scoring defender with 25 points, 2 clean sheets. A clean sheet and a 2-1 win. Is that a one or is it? Oh, I've got it so unprofessional, so I can't even read my own handwriting. I wrote it so quickly. Anyway, Jimmy Dunn scored 10 points and 15 points in 2 consecutive matches for QPR. So that was a really, really high scoring centre back. Now the ones I can read my handwriting on. Tom Krause of Luton Town was the highest scoring midfielder over the game week with 20 points. Mr. Consistent as well, 10 in each game. But Sam Field scored 19 points in a single match for QPR with 2 goals and 2 interceptions in a 3-1 victory. And then Harry Smith of Swindon Town. Of course, League Two teams only had a single game week, so this was in a single match as well. Scored a hat-trick in a 3-1 win versus Fleetwood. 0.1% of the player base have selected Harry Smith this week.
Wow. So, I mean, just to correct you, Sam Field scored both goals in a 2-0 win for QPR against Oxford, not a 3-0 win.
3-1 win, Harry Smith. Sorry, I am really not on it tonight.
QPR then also beat Norwich 3-0 when Jimmy Dunn scored. And interestingly enough, Jimmy Dunn is out of contract at the end of this season. And as yet, there is no contract discussion being made.
Interesting.
Right. Who is going to present their teams first today, Mr. Lamming? Would you like to, or do you want me to?
Oh, we normally do loser first, don't we?
Yeah, look at that smug smile.
Sorry, I can't help it.
You haven't actually seen this as yet, have you?
No, I haven't. So this is my first viewing of this team.
So I have gone for some bankers. And I've gone for at least one or two that we haven't picked, who I think have been doing really well over the last couple of weeks. So first of all, I've gone for Mr. Whitworth at Exeter, who I think is the highest scoring goalkeeper in League One. He's coming up against Barnsley. Barnsley are not particularly good at the moment. Darryl Clark is regularly in the news blasting his team. So I think there's a potential for a clean sheet here, and I think there's a potential for points. Max Cleworth was a favourite of mine early in the season, and then he got injured, and I picked him when he was injured. If you remember that, he was one of the players that I cursed. I'm hoping I'm not cursing him this week by sticking a captaincy on him, while Cambridge United are the visitors to Wrexham. Wrexham are a good side. They concede very few goals. Cambridge United are not particularly good going forward. I can see a clean sheet, and who knows, with Cleworth, he can always pop up with a goal. I've gone for Pordy O'Connor because I think he is a banker. We know Lincoln inside out, and we know that when balls come into the box, Pordy O'Connor heads them away. He's good at that. I haven't picked him for the clean sheets. I've picked him here for the other bits that defenders score for. And Mickey Demetriou, now it's a little bit of a risk because actually he's been caught on camera pulling Jay Ben's hair in the Bradford game this weekend, and Bradford have put a complaint in about it. So I am hoping that there is not a retrospective ban coming in before then. I think he's going to be busy. Unfortunately, he's playing against the Codheads, Grimsby Town. Grimsby are actually doing really well at the moment. So I think Mickey Demetriou is going to be a really busy man. So I've tried to pick busy defenders, not particularly clean sheet defenders. Middle of the park, the reason I've gone for Finn Azaz is I think Millwall are going to be on a downward trajectory at the moment. Neil Harris resigning is a real surprise. Calling fans thickos, not brilliant. They've got injury issues as well. I really like Middlesbrough. I really like Michael Carrick. I know that I picked Latte or whatever you want to call him. I always get his name wrong, and I got the wrong person. There was nobody else I was actually going to pick in that position. Same with Mr. Hamer in the middle of the park. Sheffield United are good. Plymouth are rubbish. It's an absolute banker, and I think he's on the ascendancy. And then up top, I've gone for, I think he's on loan at Walsall from Stoke. There's not many strikers I wanted to back. I'd back Josh Madger, I'd back Borja Sainz, but neither of them have done the business for me. So I've gone a little bit left field with Lowe. Just to say, along the back, I was going to pick Ethan Ampadu. Now, he only came on for Leeds, but I think they've had injuries, and I think he may be a starter. So he was one I was thinking of. I was going to put him in for Demetriou, which is why I changed my mind at last minute and swapped them over. And somewhere, because I lost my team originally, so I put my team in and then I lost the team. And the only difference from the team that I put in and the team that I have actually picked is in goal. So I'd got Ryan Allsop in goal. They're playing BRR, which isn't a real team. I don't know why they call a team. What's that? Bristol Rovers, I assume.
Yes.
BRR. What a stupid abbreviation. So I had him, and then when I came to pick it a second time, for some reason I went for Whitworth. So there's the thing: if Ryan Allsop punts a ball forward into the net, then gets an assist and keeps a clean sheet, I'm going to be as sick as a pig. And at the bottom, I really have just gone for what I think are two banker wins in Sheffield United and Middlesbrough. I need a solid week this week. So the Blades didn't let me down last week. I scored really well with them. I've picked them again. At some point, I'm going to have to stop picking them because it won't let me do it anymore. But when they've got Plymouth at home and it's a single game week across the board, it's an absolute no-brainer. And I think the same for Middlesbrough. I think those two teams could win by 2-0, and that's obviously your biggest points haul for a home win. So that's my team. Do you have any comments?
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of what you'd expect to be as near to bankers as you can get on this game. Demetriou, I could understand you kind of tossing that up in your mind because on one hand he scores points at high levels consistently, on the other hand he might not play. So that's a risky one. And then Hamer, I really like Gus Hamer. I think he's a brilliant footballer. Plymouth are bad, but they're quite good at home. And so I suppose they're just incredibly poor away. So I'm wondering, will Plymouth maybe put a surprise in this game, particularly as Wayne Rooney was reported of being under pressure and had 2 games to save his job. First one being called off, of course, and they were meant to be back-to-back home games. So Plymouth, of course, have had quite a long rest here. So the question is, are Plymouth at home better than, or at least not as bad as they are away in relation to, compared to how good Sheffield United are away? So I think Sheffield United are still a better team, but I just think that was the fixture I just didn't dare get involved with, to be honest, because I think Plymouth are better than people make out at home. They're just abysmal away.
Well, they're at Bramall Lane, aren't they? So, I mean, it's going to be difficult for them.
Oh, are they? Oh, I'm so... well, that's me just talking out my backside then again.
You're having a mare, mate. You're having a mare
this episode. Yeah, I am. And Middlesbrough is another one that I was tempted by but chose against. So, yeah, the rest of it's interesting. Just interestingly as well, it's not a single player in your team that I'll be allowed to pick. Not one.
Now, you say that, but when I picked it, Paudie O'Connor was at 0.9%.
Interesting.
When I picked my team, I picked it about 3:00 this afternoon, and you could have had Paudie.
Never mind.
Yeah. So, right. So that's the team that hopefully are going to give me a little bit of respite this week. And bear in mind, if they don't give me respite, the triple game week where I still have my captainship and you don't will also be a week where you're on 1%. If I don't win this week,
absolutely batter me then.
Well, am I? I mean, it's not really happened. I thought it was going to happen last week. Is it going to happen this week? So this is for the experts. There'll be Josh watching and hopefully some of the other guys on the feed. Is this the team that is going to beat me? Talk us through it.
So just to get the excuses in early, I as you could probably tell, everyone that's watching this week, I had 10 minutes to sort this out tonight. So I had a 1% rule to follow and literally 10 minutes to do it in. So I really hope no one here is picked up an injury in the last week or suspended for the upcoming game, because I literally have not had a chance to check it, which is annoying. However, it might give you guys a chance to get back into it. You never know. So after me just talking complete rubbish about the Sheffield United and Plymouth fixture, I've picked Sheffield United because I've literally written it down as them at home to Plymouth here and put a tick next to it on my bit of paper because I thought that was a banker. So what is wrong with me this evening? I've no idea. So yeah, teams at the bottom, Sheffield United, because they're definitely going to win. We both think that's the only similarity we've got in our team this week. I've also picked Wrexham. It's the first time I picked Wrexham all season, I think. Home to Cambridge. Wrexham are formidable at home. Obviously, we watched them play Lincoln at the racecourse in a game in which Wrexham won, but Lincoln were by far the better team. Wrexham maybe were nowhere near as good as maybe we expected them to be, but they grind out results and they don't concede many goals. And Cambridge are not a brilliant side. They're very inconsistent and, of course, are down the wrong end of the table. So I've chosen Wrexham there. I have doubled up on Blackburn Rovers. Was massively influenced by Ainsley Pearce's recent performances in goal for Blackburn Rovers. And of course, Blackburn, I believe, have won 5 games on the bounce, a lot of those to 0. So Blackburn don't concede a lot of goals. Luton, albeit have half-decent XG, don't actually score that many, though they have improved from their early season form. But Blackburn are at home. So I fancied Ainsley Pearce, who was, to be honest, the only kind of high-performing goalkeeper with a reasonable average score over game weeks, as well as his recent ones being really high. His average is decent as well. He's the only one of those in the whole game that was less than 1% that I kind of fancied. So, yeah, I picked my whole team, and my last player to pick was the goalkeeper, and I was really struggling to find one other than him that I thought had a reasonable chance of a clean sheet. So I thought, fine, I'll double up on Blackburn Rovers then, but I won't pick them as a team. I think we'll win because I was tempted to do that over Wrexham, but I decided to go for Wrexham instead. So the other player I've gone for with Blackburn is Mr. Hyam. So he is the only player, I think, that was in my team last week. High-scoring defender, scores well for blocks and clearances, but also has, of course, been part of a defence that hasn't conceded many goals at all recently. So again, some clean sheet points there. Now, kind of probability would suggest that Blackburn are likely to concede in this game because they haven't conceded for a while, but form would suggest that they're likely to keep a clean sheet. And so I'm decided to trust form rather than trust probability. We'll see what happens. I didn't captain either of those. Next, I've gone for Lawrence Maguire, who is my vice captain of MK Dons. I think MK Dons I think they're the best team in League Two, to be honest, particularly under Scott Lindsay. I think they are really good in possession and ever improving out of it. And Gillingham, despite a really, really strong start to the season, have been inconsistent since. I just really fancied MK Dons for a positive result here, particularly at home. So I picked Mr. Maguire. And then last but not least in my back three is Mr. Pye from Stockport County. Stockport's highest scoring defender away at Stevenage is going to be involved in a lot of box entries and therefore a lot of clearances. So that was partly a good team. I think Stockport are a good side, but also fixture in regards to just the style of game and the style of defending that is going to have to be up against this week. Sam Finley, a recent favourite of mine, to be honest. So he's back in. He's been a consistent scorer. Bar his last game, actually, only scored a single point in his last game. But prior to that, had been a relatively high scorer since coming back from injury. And with Tranmere playing at home to Harrogate, a team that's not doing brilliantly in League Two, I thought it was a decent opportunity, not only for interceptions, which he's scored in almost every game he's played since coming back, but he's also scored relatively well for key passes at times and against a slightly weaker opposition compared to other fixtures. He might score well in both sides of the pitch. And then also in midfield is another favourite from a previous week is Ben Woods from Accrington Stanley, just someone who scores incredibly highly for interceptions. Sorry, once again, not assists, interceptions. And I scored a couple of goals here and then as well, but primarily selected him due to his interception rate. And against a struggling Fleetwood side, two teams that don't particularly hold on to the ball too well, So I expect this to be a relatively attritional and transitional game. So I think there might be opportunity for interceptions there. And then a wild card up top in Samson Tavide. Colchester United have been massively underperforming their numbers this season. So performing pretty well, not getting the results that their performances has necessarily justified. Samson Tavide is a player who has he epitomises Colchester United in that regard. Played well, hasn't necessarily got the goal return, or in regards to this game, the points return to maybe justify his performances. He's a player I think's got a really big future, playing against a team which is questionable at the back in Newport County. I just think Colchester are really improving. Tavide's a really, really good centre forward, fast, strong, not the best finisher in the world, but gets himself into good positions, creates as well. Ultimately, 1% weak. Strikers tend to be the hardest picks, don't they, generally on this game, I find. And he just really interested me, so I thought I'd go for it.
Of course, he got two goals and 2 shots, didn't he, against Swindon in their 4-0 win on December the 3rd.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. So his recent scoring was good, but yeah, I think he's a good player. He's a really good player. I don't think he'd be in League Two that long. And I think there's a chance that he could find some form that he's shown.
There's also a chance that he won't play.
Well, I guess I haven't had a chance to check any of this. So if that's the case, then so be it.
No, to be fair, Colchester didn't play, did they? It was Tuesday the 3rd. They didn't have a game on the Saturday. I was just looking and I saw that he'd last played on the 3rd of December, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's injured, but probably not. So looking at that team, do you know what? For a 1% team, you look at Higham, who've got you 17 points, Finley and Woods, who we've both picked without restrictions at times as well. I mean, they're good, solid picks. Yeah, they are. I'm going to be honest, I'm still quietly confident this week. And I should be, because I can pick from anybody I want. But every week, the value is actually in the players that fewer than 1% have picked. Every week, when you go through the list of players who've scored the highest, they are almost always, from under 1% people picking them. The difference is that the over 1% are the ones that score consistently rather than always highly. So in reality, by me going with the bankers, I'm looking for a consistency there, whereas you're looking for somebody who's going to go like suddenly Tavide pops up with like a hat trick against Newport, and then you're going to go that, it's like Roberts, isn't it, popping up with his goal. And you've actually had a lot of luck with that, because you had it with Wrexham when you picked the midfielder whose name escapes me, who scored, or the wing back who scored straight away.
Bennett.
Yeah.
Is it Bennett?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So there we go. Chris is the first man to reach double digits in our challenge. I think I've now only won 1 in something like the last 7 weeks.
A couple of more victories in there, right?
Yeah. I mean, morally, I'm miles ahead. It goes without saying. And I did actually write to Sky, the EFL, whoever organises it. I don't know who it is now, EFL people, and say, can you chalk me up some points for moral victories? But disgustingly, they said no. And do you know what? I thought, if Saudi Arabia can get awarded a World Cup, why the hell can't I get a few points added on in the Fantasy League? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I didn't send any brown envelopes, but... So there we go. This was the show that we enjoy recording more than you enjoy watching. I was not happy when I came into this show, but I'm actually a little bit more upbeat now, because it's not the winning, it's the taking part. That's what all the losers say. So that's what I'm saying right now. Morally, I'm winning. So it's not about actually winning. It's about morally winning, but losing and taking part. And that's what makes you a winner. I think everybody's agreed, aren't they?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Would you like me to remind you of something that we haven't done on this show just yet?
No.
We haven't looked at the Stacey West League table.
No, and we're not going to, because I haven't got it up, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we will do... hang on, I'll tell you what. Let's have a quick look at the Stacey West League table. As if by magic, what a shambles of a show this has been, but people still love it. So Josh is still smashing it out at the top. I mean, look, he's got a 77-point lead over John Leonard, which is massive. He scored particularly well this week, but one less than me, which does make me a little bit happier about how I did. Ed Harrison's pushing himself up there, but again, he's 108 behind Josh now, so there's going to be very little change at the top there. But then there's quite a tight pack, isn't there? There's Mr. Meacham, whose name I sadly do not know, but please do let me know if it's Dan or Dave or Dean or Darren. Matt Fenton is up there from our rival Lincoln City pod. Not a great week, but he's tightly packed in with Callum Anderson. Lincoln's finest, which I think is Ryan Rose. You're having a latte. No, you're not. I don't like him. But there's actually some low scores compared to mine here. I wonder where I was. I'm going to have a look where I was on the game week.
Is it worth looking at who was the highest scoring this week out of everybody?
Oh, God, here we go. Go on then. What was it? Game week 18. Oh, it wasn't you.
No. Is it?
It was Val. Oh, fair play to her. Look at that. I was 8th this week.
Yeah,
I was disappointed
had a good
with it.
week.
I was 8th. I beat Josh. Did I beat Amy Jones as well? So I beat Josh and Amy, who are obviously, fantasy league experts. Look at Jack Mulhall flying up there. How did he do this week? Captain Palmer. You see, again, to be fair, look at Jack, 104 points. And he got 8 across his 2 sides at the bottom. Mind you, Crew Alexander only played once, didn't they? I wonder if he got that by accident. Did you get that by accident? Exactly. Imagine how many more he could have got. Dean did very well this week as well with his 1% side. And funnily enough, his 1% side had no players that you had.
That is genuinely interesting. Yeah,
it is. Did I see Mr. Mercer as well? Carl Mercer is up there, look. Oh, is that the triple captain chip this week he played?
It would appear so. It's not triple captain. It just guarantees that your captain is the highest scoring player.
Yeah, sorry. It's the triple game week, isn't it? That you should.
You want to use it on. Yeah.
Yeah, that I am going to use it on. So there we go. So that is the Stacey West League. We would go all the way down to the bottom. In fact, we will, but there's very, very little point because the people at the bottom are not picking their team. But we are kind of hoping when I get down there that it is going to be Charlie. So Charlie is still bottom, which is great. Stu Wells is in the bottom half. Actually, where's Ben these days? Is Ben must be below you? Is he below me? Have I overtaken Ben? There's me in 35th. On 1149.
There he is.
There
Chameleon,
he is.
47.
Mind you, he went with Sirkin. Signs. Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. So that's really interesting, I'm sure, for everybody watching at home. Chris just wanted to show that he was second, although he was top on the way home last night, and then it all went wrong. So my heart.
I'll take coming second on a 1% week. Absolutely. I will just say we will endeavour to get back to a regular recording, won't we, as of next week. It's only a 1-game week this time round, so we've got a kind of slightly bigger window to squeeze it in. So we'll definitely get back with that, and we'll have more time to prepare for it. So it actually is a more enjoyable show than I'm sure this one has been.
I bet people like the fact it's shambolic more than it'd be better prepared. I certainly enjoyed you making mistakes all the way through it. That's cheered me up because it shows you're not infallible. So there we go, ladies, gentlemen, boys. I'm not going to do the up with call and I think because it doesn't really fit, does it? I think that we should just say thank you for watching and we'll catch up with you again next week. Cheerio.
See ya.